So growing up in a Christian home, there's always been this sort of head knowledge about the Bible and about God and all the famous biblical stories. But no matter how much I knew about God and what He had done for us, I wasn't really living a life for God. And I didn't really understand what it meant to live a life for God or to have a personal relationship with God. And that understanding didn't really come until much later in my life. In high school, I was the track kid. I had a handful of school records. I competed nationally. I had people come watch me when I practiced, and I was going to a D1 school, and the biggest thing was that I had an Olympic dream. And at that point in my life, track was my idol. It was the only thing that mattered to me. It was the only thing I cared about. On the surface, I would say, I'm doing this for God, but in reality, it was all for me. I just wanted to be as good as I could. I wanted to be faster. It was all that mattered to me. After high school, I competed at 2 different D1 schools, and that really came with its ups and downs, both on the track and off, because whenever I didn't perform on the track, it affected every other aspect of my life, because that's how much it mattered to me. It was the integral part of my life. And after coming to UMass, I started to meet more people that were following God and that had this personal relationship with Christ. I met them at Crew, and through knowing them and through seeing their relationship with God, I started to understand the importance of the gospel. In short, the gospel is the good news that Jesus Christ, God's Son, and God Himself came to earth as a man to live a perfect life and to go up on a cross to die as a sacrifice for all of our sins so that we might be reconciled with Christ. Only if we believe. And as this became more real for me, it started to replace track as the number one thing in my life. It became the integral part of me that track once was. I was still very attached to track even at this point, but for other reasons, I fell out of love with the sport. It became more of a job than a passion, as it was in high school, and there was just no joy left in it. So I decided to leave the track team. And that was last March, and it was one of the hardest things that I had ever done. It felt like I was ripping out a part of who I was, ripping out that part that was once integral in my life, and just leaving it behind. And so I knew in my head that my identity didn't come from my sport, but rather that it came from my relationship with Christ. But it didn't have that real in my heart. I didn't have my identity resting in my relationship with Christ. It was still dependent on my sport, and for a while, I was just in sort of this chaotic state, just stress everywhere, because I had felt like I left behind who I was. And through time, through friends, and through prayer, and through trusting in God, I've come to reconcile my head and my heart, and knowing that my identity rests firmly on Christ, knowing that I'm a man of God, a child of God, and a man seeking after God. That's who I am.